welcome to GothCast. I am Dr. Sanders, and today I'm going to be taking a look at, sort of something I've been wanting forever. It definitely fills my need for a book I've needed or wanted in my life, and that is a biography of Tim Burton, or an autobiography is what I would want, right? You want to hear his own personal thoughts on everything, and this book is kind of like a halfway point. And what this is, it's a book called Burton on Burton. It's a combination of interviews that he's done over the years where he talks about, each specific movie, and the author of the book, the person who compiled it, kind of giving you the information to fill in the blanks. So what this means is, for all the information, like talking about how, Night Before Christmas was released in a certain year and it was, done in this way with studios, that kind of like boring information and, kind of straightforward information that you need to kind of set up the movie and a little bit of information about it, that's written in a paragraph written by the author, and then it kind of goes into interviews and uses in his own words what Tim Burton was going through on the movie, what he thinks of it, what all of his experiences through that, taken from all these interviews that he's done. So it's literally in his own words. So Burton on Burton, Burton talking about his, But it is a really good book in that it's probably as close as we'll get to a Tim Burton autobiography for quite a while. I mean, he's a very personal guy, and some things I know he's probably not going to talk about, and some things aren't addressed in this book, which is kind of funny. But it's cool that it goes through the beginning of his life, it kind of talks about when he's growing up in Burbank and everything like that, and seeing Vincent Price films, and all that sort of stuff kind of sets up what would happen. He even talks about his time at Disney when he's like, Disney was in a super weird place, they didn't even know what we were doing. He's like, I just hid under my desk like for a while and didn't do anything. There's some pretty interesting stories like that. But then it goes by a movie basis. So it does Pee-wee's Big Adventure, and then it talks, about everything that he was involved with that, and his opinions on it, and then talks about, Batman or Batman Returns, and basically, so if you haven't seen a movie or it's not as familiar to you, you can either read it beforehand before you watch the movie to kind of get an idea of what it is or how he felt about it, or you can just pick the movies that you've seen because it's broken up into chapters like that, which is really convenient for a biography. I can't tell you how many times I've been like trying to find a certain thing that I said in a biography and be like, what part of it was it in? It was like page 200, and just like, oh, this chapter is called Resurrection, and like, who knows what person be talking about in there. But I really, really like the approach to this book, in that it takes Tim Burton talking about himself and then just basically splits up everything. It's probably taken from so many different sources, but they make it seem like it's all being spoken at one time by Tim Burton, and that is really cool because it's almost like a makeshift autobiography using these already existing items. I will say that obviously some things are excluded, like when he started seeing Hannah Bottom Carter with the whole Planet of the Apes thing. And that's right, people forget that he directed Planet of the Apes in the early 2000s. He did direct Planet of the Apes in the early 2000s. Just remember that, because I know I forget. But he met Hannah Bottom Carter when he was making that movie. And of course at the time he was with somebody else and it was very controversial, and his ex-girlfriend ended up selling a whole bunch of his drawings and all of his belongings that she had, and there's a whole bunch of stuff like that. It doesn't go into that sort of, darker place in his life for the most part. It does talk about like the Batman Returns, how it was pulled from shelves because it was so dark. They were gonna do like McDonald's toys or something like that, but then it was so dark with a Penguin and Catwoman that they pulled it. And he does talk about the backlash to some of that. This is the second edition of this book, so before I think it stopped at like 1995 or 96 in the original printing of it, and then they expanded it and had every other movie added up there until Corpse Bride. So this second version, the one that has the green cover, that is the most updated version. In fact, I wish they would update it again, because it stops at Corpse Bride, which was 12 years ago now. It's 2017. So it's time, I think. But it's a cool look. In fact, it even has some of the sketches and different things. I have reviewed the art of Tim Burton, which I said I wish I had more about his life and everything like that. I think if you buy the art book and then you buy this, I think you got everything covered up until 2005. Because it's basically Tim Burton's most personal way of saying, you know, these things about his movies in this book, whereas the art and everything shows that development and conception of, you know, the way he views things. So I think the two of them are really a pair, at least in my mind. I know that they're not, you know, published as a pair or anything like that, but I really, really enjoy this book. I've read it so many times. In fact, when I was in college, you know, hundreds of years ago, I would read it like all the time on break. I wore it out and then I loaned it to somebody and never get back, so I'd buy it again. So it just shows you how good of a book it is whenever you have trouble holding on to it, because everybody keeps stealing it from me. You know who you are. I hope you've enjoyed this video, the small look at Burton on Burton, which is a book I highly recommend for Burton fans. I don't know if I recommend it for non-Tim Burton fans. It'd be hard because if you hate Tim Burton, I don't know if this will convince you to like him, because it's just about his movies and talk about how quirky he is, how amazing he is, right? I hope you've enjoyed this video. You can like, comment, subscribe, and of course just make sure to stay spooky.